15 years ago, on June 25, 2009, at noon, Michael Jackson was administered drugs by his personal doctor. These drugs ultimately led to Michael Jackson's death. The doctor claims he provided the drugs to help Michael with his insomnia. However, Michael's fans and family still believe that he was killed. The day before his death, on June 24, 2009, Michael was rehearsing for a concert. This was set to be the final concert of Michael's life, titled This Is It, which was scheduled to take place at London's O2 Arena in July. This concert held special significance for Michael, as he had not performed in several years. The allegations of abuse had deeply affected him. After taking a break from the music industry, Michael Jackson was especially thrilled about this concert because it would be the first time his children would see him perform live. In Los Angeles, California, Michael Jackson's home is located at 100 North Carrollwood Drive. The Staples Center, where Michael continued his rehearsals, is about 17 miles away. It takes roughly 15 minutes to drive from this rented house to the rehearsal spot. On the night of June 24, 2009, at midnight, Michael wrapped up his rehearsal and headed back to his home at 100 North Carrollwood Drive. Around 12:30 a.m., Michael arrived home and headed straight for the kitchen, where his personal nutritionist and chef, Kai Chase, had prepared dinner for him. After dining, Michael retired to his bedroom. However, due to his insomnia, he struggled to fall asleep. Meanwhile, Conrad Murray, Michael's personal physician, entered the house. Michael suffered from insomnia, requiring medication to sleep each night. For this reason, he had a separate medication room adjacent to his bedroom suite. Like every night, including June 24th, Michael found himself unable to sleep. Around 1 a.m., Conrad Murray began preparing medication in the medical room to help him sleep. It became apparent that Conrad regularly administered an anesthetic called propofol to aid Michael's sleep. This nightly routine involved Conrad visiting Michael's home. At 1:30 a.m., as usual, Conrad administered diazepam, lorazepam, and midazolam to Michael. But surprisingly, none of the medications seemed to work as Michael Jackson continued to struggle with insomnia. Conrad administered multiple injections to help him sleep, but they had no effect. This cycle of attempting to induce sleep with medications continued for 8 to 10 hours. Eventually, in desperation, Michael asked Conrad for milk, which referred to the same propofol we discussed earlier. Propofol is an anesthetic used by doctors during surgeries. Initially, Conrad Murray resisted Michael's request for medication. However, around 10:40 in the morning, due to Michael Jackson's persistence, Conrad administered a diluted 25 mg dose of propofol with lidocaine. Finally, Michael fell asleep. Observing Michael sleeping peacefully, Conrad briefly left the room to use the bathroom. Upon returning, he noticed Michael's condition had drastically deteriorated. Michael was unresponsive, with a weak pulse and difficulty breathing. Conrad, realizing the severity of the situation, began to sweat profusely. In his desperate attempt to save Michael, Conrad Murray tried everything he could. Unfortunately, his efforts proved futile. Conrad administered CPR for a total of 10 minutes, a decision he would later deeply regret. I'll explain why shortly, but for now remember that Conrad believed CPR was necessary to revive Michael, though in hindsight it may have worsened the situation. Afterward, Conrad suspected that the dose of propofol might have been too high. In an effort to counteract its effects, he injected another drug called flumazenil into Michael's body. Flumazenil is used to reverse the effects of sedative overdose. Despite all these interventions, Michael remained unresponsive. When Conrad realized nothing was working, he called for help, but no one responded to his calls. Conrad was gripped with fear by this point. At noon, he rushed downstairs shouting for Kai to seek help, fetch security, and bring Prince. After instructing her, he hurried back to Michael's room. Kai, frightened herself, abandoned her tasks and fetched Michael's eldest son, Prince, who was 12 years old at the time, and playing with his siblings in the den. Confused about what to do next, Kai returned with Prince while Conrad phoned Michael Amir, Michael Jackson's personal assistant, around 12:15 p.m. However, Amir wasn't home at that moment. Unable to reach him directly, Amir contacted Alberto Alvarez, Michael Jackson's personal security, for assistance. As soon as Alberto received the call, he rushed to Michael Jackson's room and found him lying unresponsive on the bed with his phone turned off, eyes open. Alberto immediately dialed 911. During the call, Alberto directed Michael Jackson's body to be moved from the bed to the floor and instructed Conrad to administer CPR. Alberto assured them that help was on the way and provided guidance over the phone on performing CPR until medical assistance arrived. Conrad continued performing CPR, but Michael's body remained unresponsive. During this critical moment, Conrad asked Alberto to hide medical items, but Alberto did not comply. Instead, Conrad collected all the medical items himself, placed them into a bag, and scattered them around the room. These bags were later discovered during the investigation. Fahim Muhammad, Michael Jackson's bodyguard, described Dr. Murray as frantic upon his arrival, noting that Conrad seemed disoriented. Despite efforts from the paramedics who also administered CPR, Michael did not show any signs of improvement. The paramedics transported Michael to the hospital, where all of Michael's family members, including Kai, the rest of his staff, and his 3 children, gathered together in a single location. A little later, around 1:15 p.m., paramedics arrived with Michael Jackson, and despite inquiries from family members, they remained silent. Michael was rushed to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center, where efforts to revive him continued, but he showed no signs of response. At 2:30 p.m., Michael Jackson was pronounced dead, thus due to a personal error by Dr. Conrad Murray, the world lost the renowned singer and dancer, Michael Jackson. The question arises, was it merely a mistake or something more sinister? In today's video, we will delve into why there are beliefs that Michael Jackson's death may have been a murder. Specifically, why did Dr. Conrad Murray delay calling 911? How did Michael end up with insomnia? And how did he get hooked on drugs? We'll also dig into why he was so fixated on plastic surgeries. And most importantly, which of the accusations against Michael were true. But let's start at the beginning. There's a state in the US called Indiana. In that state, there's a city called Gary. Michael Jackson was born there on August 29, 1958, into a struggling middle-class family. Michael Jackson's father, Joseph Jackson, worked as a crane operator, and his mother, Katherine Jackson, was a homemaker. They had 9 kids: Rebby, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Toya, Marlon, Randy, Janet, and Michael. Out of these 9 children, only 5, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Michael, formed a band at their father's urging called the Jackson 5. Joe Jackson knew that the entertainment industry was the fastest route to making money in the world. Perhaps Joe figured that by pushing his kids into showbiz, they could rake in serious cash. That's why he got his 5 children started in entertainment at a young age. The result? Their group became incredibly famous, especially the Jackson 5, who made waves worldwide. Among them, Michael stood out the most. He was the youngest of the 5 brothers and garnered the most fame and attention. He was also the best at dancing and singing. Michael himself knew from an early age that he wanted to be a performer. He loved entertaining people and being on stage. That's why he also pursued his solo career, inserting solos into his performances to showcase the type of music he wanted to share with his audience. Michael's hard work paid off when his solo career reached its peak in 1979 with the release of his hit song Off the Wall, produced in collaboration with Quincy Jones at Epic Records. Their partnership proved highly beneficial for Michael Jackson at that time. Realizing he could thrive on his own, Michael made the tough decision to leave the Jackson 5 band in 1984. After making the decision to focus on his solo career, Michael Jackson soared to fame as the king of pop. Thanks to his collaboration with Quincy Jones, he produced smash hits like Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad, Dangerous, and History that still resonate worldwide today. One of his most iconic moves, the moonwalk, which he had been practicing since childhood, first stunned the world during a performance on March 25, 1983. Speaking of his fan following, Michael himself mentioned in a documentary that nearly 5,000 people fainted at one of his concerts. Such was the fervor for Michael that fans would even storm the stage just to catch a glimpse of him from afar. Michael's life took a dramatic turn with 2 major accidents that left a lasting impact. One significant incident occurred in 1984 during the filming of a Pepsi commercial. As seen in the footage, Michael was positioned behind a wire gate when a small firework ignited unexpectedly. Initially unaware, a spark from the firework set Michael Jackson's hair ablaze. The flames quickly spread, causing him to suffer third-degree burns on his scalp. Following the Pepsi commercial incident in 1984, Michael Jackson faced another significant accident in 1999. During a concert in Germany while performing his song Earth Song on a bridge, the structure collapsed unexpectedly from a height of 50 feet due to a mechanical failure. Despite the terrifying accident, Michael managed to finish the performance before being rushed to the hospital. It was during this period of recovery that Michael developed a dependence on painkillers and sedatives. The fear of not being able to perform again haunted him, driving him to seek relief from the physical and emotional toll of these accidents. Michael's fear escalated to the point where stress began to take a toll on his health, triggering various illnesses. Among them, insomnia became the most debilitating condition, leaving Michael unable to sleep for extended periods. Despite trying numerous medications without success, he eventually turned to propofol, recommended by his doctor Conrad Murray. This intravenous anesthesia provided Michael with the peaceful sleep he desperately needed. Soon, Michael became dependent on propofol, receiving nightly injections to induce sleep. Propofol works rapidly by entering the bloodstream directly through veins, providing immediate effects akin to anesthesia. Typically, anesthesia like propofol is administered under controlled medical conditions, either before or after surgery with the presence of doctors and necessary medical equipment. However, in Michael's case, he was receiving daily doses of propofol outside of a medical setting. Over time, Michael began referring to this medication as milk due to its appearance and consistency resembling that of milk. Like children who often fall asleep after drinking milk at night, Michael found solace in propofol for inducing sleep. It's important to note that after receiving such anesthesia, a person enters a state where they cannot regain consciousness voluntarily. The 2 tragic accidents in Michael's life indeed had profound consequences, leading to his struggles with insomnia and drug addiction. However, one of the most widely recognized aspects of Michael's life was his affinity for plastic surgery. Despite never publicly acknowledging undergoing extensive plastic surgery, Michael openly discussed one procedure: his nose surgery. Over the years, Michael underwent numerous nose surgeries, far more than what most people would consider in a lifetime. His dissatisfaction with his nose stemmed from his childhood, influenced significantly by his strict father who pushed all his children into the entertainment industry from a very young age, with the belief that he needed to toughen up his children for success. Joe Jackson, Michael's father, took on the role of a strict disciplinarian in their upbringing. He insisted that his children address him as a trainer rather than as a father. During rehearsals, Joe's discipline often crossed into physical punishment, prompting Katherine, Michael's mother, to intervene and try to stop the beatings. These experiences left a deep-seated resentment and fear of his father in Michael's mind. Just the mention of Joe's name would make Michael tremble with fear. Moreover, Joe instilled a sense of insecurity in Michael about his nose, often criticizing it and attributing its appearance to Catherine's side of the family, describing it as undesirable and not fitting with their image. To address his insecurities, Michael underwent his first nose surgery, or rhinoplasty, in 1979. He attributed the procedure to an accident that had allegedly broken his nose, although the true motive was clear to many. However, Michael was dissatisfied with the results and pursued more surgeries, including one in 1983 and another in 1986, which exacerbated breathing issues. This marked the beginning of a series of surgeries that extended beyond his nose to include alterations to his face and chin, leading some to speculate about Michael's motivations. His evolving appearance often kept him in the spotlight, with some exploiting his fame for their own gain. Notably, rapper Eminem mocked Michael in a 2004 song, poking fun at the tragic incidents involving Michael's hair catching fire and his back injury. In response, Michael Jackson made a strategic move in 2007 that caught attention worldwide. He acquired the rights to Eminem's music through a deal with Sony, ensuring he would profit from every song Eminem released. Despite this savvy business move, Michael made a significant and controversial mistake on November 19, 2002, when an incident unfolded on a hotel room balcony in Berlin, Germany. It's true that Michael Jackson faced severe criticism and ridicule after an incident where he dangled his youngest son, Blanket, from a hotel room balcony to show his fans, sparking outrage and even dangerous imitations by some individuals. This reckless act drew widespread condemnation, including from his own fans, and led to a public apology from Michael, who was deeply embarrassed by the incident. He retreated into seclusion for several days afterward, as revealed by his bodyguard in an interview. Besides controversies like this, Michael also had ongoing disputes with Sony, primarily stemming from issues with the then-chairman Tommy Mottola. These conflicts underscored a turbulent period in Michael's career and personal life, marked by both public scrutiny and private struggles. The dispute between Michael Jackson and Tommy Mottola was indeed multifaceted, encompassing issues of artistic control, financial interests, and allegations of racial discrimination. Michael openly accused Mottola of discrimination based on race and ethnicity, labeling him as racist and malicious during a public appearance in 2002. He asserted that Mottola and Sony aimed to hinder the progress of black artists, a sentiment echoed by Kanye West, who also voiced concerns about a conspiracy surrounding Michael's death in a tweet. Beyond his professional battles, Michael Jackson was known for his deep affection for children. This love stemmed from his own childhood experiences, where he felt deprived of paternal affection from his strict father. Michael's desire to give children the love he lacked drove him to connect with young people worldwide, often inviting them into his life and sharing his wealth and resources with them. His relationships with children were a source of both admiration and controversy throughout his life. That's why he created a world for himself where he could relive his lost childhood once again. This world was called Neverland Ranch. Despite owning many homes, Michael spent most of his time here. There were several reasons behind his creation of this estate. His lost childhood once again. This world was called Neverland Ranch. Despite owning many homes, Michael spent most of his time here. There were several reasons behind his creation of this estate. Michael had a deep love for animals and wanted to have his own personal zoo, which he fulfilled at Neverland Ranch. Additionally, he aimed to bring joy and childhood happiness to every child who visited. To achieve this, he built an amusement park where he could play with children who came to visit. It was common to see Michael himself swinging and spending hours playing with them. But what if the cases of the children who are surrounded by children for 24 hours are filed against them? There was something like this with Michael Jackson, where a case was filed against him for raping children. This case was filed in 1993 by a dentist named Ivan Chandler. In this case, Ivan had accused Michael because of the molestation with his son Jordan. Due to these accusations, the police come to Michael's house on December 22, 1993, investigate him. Now, if there was a normal investigation, it would have been different, but the limit was reached when they knew Jackson completely and checked his entire body. Michael told people about this through a video. He said with the help of this video that it was a very dehumanizing and humiliating investigation, which he had never faced in his life. However, the result of this whole case was that Michael gave $25 million to Chandler's family, which was also proved without any charges. In 2003, Michael met a cancer patient named Gavin Arvizo. This boy was a big fan of Michael and had longed to meet him for some time. To fulfill Gavin's wish, Michael invited Gavin's parents, brother and sister to Neverland Ranch. Unfortunately, their interaction was misrepresented in a highly critical documentary made by journalist Martin Bashir, who was also considered a friend of Michael's. It goes to show that sometimes it's not enemies but supposed friends who can cause the most harm. That's why Michael was deeply disturbed by the documentary. During an interview, he expressed disbelief that Martin would portray him in such a negative light. The documentary painted Michael as a child abuser in the eyes of the public. In short, all allegations of child abuse against Michael were proven false, with no credible evidence found. Anyway, let's now explore why some believe Michael Jackson was murdered. Consider if Michael had requested extra propofol. Enter Conrad Murray, a doctor. His first mistake becomes apparent when you picture this inside the very room where Michael stayed. There was an oxygen cylinder, some anesthetics, a bag valve mask BVM, and various medications. But what you won't find in that room is a target-controlled infusion TCI device. When administering high-level anesthetics, it's crucial to have this equipment on hand. It's used to precisely control any adverse reactions that might occur from the anesthetic. Additionally, essential medical devices like a pulse oximeter, non-invasive blood pressure (NIBP) monitor, electrocardiogram (ECG), and capnography were notably absent from Michael's room at that critical time. Conrad's first mistake was evident. He failed to provide Michael with the proper medical equipment needed for administering such potent medications safely. Secondly, Conrad didn't administer CPR correctly. Without first determining whether Michael was experiencing respiratory distress or cardiac arrest, Conrad immediately began chest compressions. What Michael truly needed was advanced medical intervention. Conrad's third mistake, and perhaps the most damning, was his failure as a doctor to prevent Michael from self-administering an excessive amount of propofol. Overall, Conrad was sentenced to 4 years for his medical negligence, and the court did not give anyone any punishment for Michael's death. Michael's fans still believe that he was killed, but what happened in Michael's room that day was such a private event that the court could not find any evidence against Dr. Conrad Murray.